we have Philip, our technical architect, with us.
Okay.
So he'll be talking to you about, your DevOps and the AWS experience today. Okay? Yeah. Okay, Philip, please carry on. Thank you.
Let's go ahead. Yeah. Hey, hi, Vandana. You're able to hear me?
Yes, I can able to hear you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So, Vandana, you can go over your experience, Vandana, and what have you been recently doing with DevOps, Ansible, AWS, and Docker, so that we can pick up questions from there.
Yeah. I have over 8 years of experience in the field of Linux, and I've started working on a DevOps roles in the past couple of projects. And I'm currently working on Linux servers and maintaining the build pipeline and migrating the instances to the cloud, and working on the kickstarting the Linux servers and satellite servers, and installing the applications like Tomcat, JBoss, and WebLogic. And also I have troubleshooted the application level and the operating system level issues on Red Hat 6 and 7, and worked on MySQL clustering. Coming to the DevOps side, I have worked on some configuration management tools like Puppet and Ansible, and written manifests and modules to do the tasks like create file systems and configuration and automate the kickstart, and also integrated them to create machines with VMware using Power Command Line interface, and have written some of the Ansible playbooks to deploy the EC2 instances and deploy the applications, and I've written modules in Ansible to integrate with Apache and Tomcat, and I have set up some CloudFormation templates in AWS, and created some LAMP stack using the Ansible, and I have also worked on Jenkins to create the build jobs, troubleshooted the issues with build jobs, and I worked on AMP and Maven build tools, and I have a good experience in Git pull request, branching, hooking, and merging. And I have also configured the Git hooks for application deployment. And coming to the AWS web services, worked on creating the new EC2 instances and migrating VMware to EC2, and also worked on virtual private cloud, and I've created some roles and Amazon machine images. I also worked on some configuring CloudFront and configured FY load balancer, and I'm good with Shell and Python scripting. And we have written, I have written some of the automated tasks for the infrastructure development. And in the recent achievement in my project is implementing the Elasticsearch components like Logstash and Filegate. That's our recent implementation, having our Elasticsearch components to find out errors on the target servers, which makes it easy to monitor the error codes with this implementation. So this is my overall experience.
Yeah. Okay. So Shell and Python, right? So what have we can you tell me any automations that you have done on Shell and on Python?
I have been working on various kinds of incremental backup of the machines by using the Python scripting, and also try to switch off the machines in the night, and then we can actually save the costs and use the Python automate Boto library for the Amazon SDK, which helps us to save the costing in multiple service environment. And I've defined it there, and which we need to go to the library and which define it there, and also use it like services which handles on the multiple services environment and apply there, and how we could also work on the shell script for role creation for the cron jobs especially, and which can be created on top of that.
No, when you say role creation, when you say role creation, what is this role creation?
This is a role which we create inside our Active Directory by using the PowerShell API, and then apart from that, we have also used it for creating the identity and access management roles inside the identity, and access management for the Amazon Web Services, which can help us to do that.
Okay. So why did you need a scripting there? Why did you need an automation there?
I mean, we and this one we have created at the build time inside our Visual Studio Team Services, which we need to automate the to be able to do the basic or automatically create through the problematic mistake detector, so that we can actually do it
No,
from
no, no, no,
programming
no.
mistakes.
My question is, no, no, no. Hold on. My question is very simple. Why did we need an automation to create an IAM role, etc.?
I mean, the reason is simple. It's taking manual steps and having a Amazon bill, we need a temporary role which will help us to provision some machines, and we do not want to use the service account at the time because that can give access to all of the services of Amazon. So that is the reason which we need to create a temporary role on the Amazon for that.
So how many roles did you create? On an average, right? How many roles did you create?
On average, I'll be creating more than 5 roles based on the environment on which it actually going to be provisioned. Depends
For
on.
every deployment, do you need a role to be created?
You mean during the deployment? Sure.
No,
Only
when
for-
do you create the role? When do you create a role?
Basically, every day in the morning we have a role for specific environment, and then every day we will be remove the previous day roles. And then this is because we have a very secure environment, and then we don't want any kind of security breach. And then we have the Cloud Trial API, which will help us to keep the logs of specific environment.
Okay, so when you say every day morning you reset the roles, right? How do you reset these roles?
We have, there would be a call from Amazon API and remove the previous day role, and we are using the Unix timestamp to be able to create the new role, and using the Unix timestamp, usually trying to differentiate the various control inside that, and then we actually try to add the same policy with the same content. Using the policy simulator inside that, and then inside the policy simulator, we'll be running that to see if it is able to access a specific machine. And there are some test cases which are executed after that on the multiple environments.
Okay, okay. So let's move on to GitHub, okay? So have you worked on as a developer anytime, as a Java developer or .NET developer?
Yes, I was working on some of the Java microservices on the Spring Boot, and I have used I have also used the Spring applications, and I'm also responsible for integrating the JDBC and Hibernate using the J2E applications with the Spring, and able to get the background API integration, and use the Spring Boot to create the microservices framework, and migrated the monolithic applications to a microservices architecture so that they can be easily managed on top of the run level services.
Okay, okay. So for Java, right, when you use GitHub, right, what is the difference between forking a repository and cloning a repository?
A clone will actually create an exact copy on the local machine, and then
Okay.
coming to the, you mean the forking? It is actually a link the copy, which means that any of the changes which will actually put in there on main repository to the forked repository, and the menu for couples to create some copy of the original repository, but the repository in GitHub account where we can clone actually do changes, and those changes were actually replaced across both the repositories, and then helps in making sure that all the feature requests which are done and then actually automatically replicates to the other one in this case, and have the A4 as a copy of the repository, which allows us to freely experiment with changes without actually having any issue. And
Which one is this?
Yeah.
Which one is this? Are you talking about the clone, or are you talking about the fork?
Fork is independent, and I mean, clone is main repository on the local repo, and we have to be careful with the clone. And in fork, we can experiment. We can experiment the thing. So this
Why do we need to be careful with the clone?
pardon.
Why do we need to be careful with the clone?
We need to be careful because when we are pushing all the changes, we are actually having to go to the remote repository, and we need to make sure that the testing has to be done, where in case for the like for the new direction to the whole project, which means that we are actually right to experiment with something new, which cannot which is
So with
not
fork, you cannot make changes.
during cloning. You mean during cloning we cannot
No.
able to change it?
Using fork. Using fork, you will not be able to make changes.
We can actually fork. By using fork we can make changes, which allows us to freely experiment with changes without actually
So
affecting
is
the.
that not risky? The changes done by fork is not risky, but only when the changes done by the clone is risky.
Clone is actually going to be like a live project, and then fork is going to think of the original project and can have a process completion process completion clone, which will be using it for the pull request inside with the original repository on the personal copy for the contribution back to the original project.
Okay. So what is let's move on with Maven and Gradle. Do you have any working experience on Maven and Gradle?
Yes, I do have on both of them, and I've used the pom.xml.
So in Maven, right? What are the plugins that have you come across?
Some of the plugins, like there are various kinds of, Maven has, and I have used like Surefire and TestNG, and also used like JUnit, and also used the Selenium. These are some of the plugins I've used under.
So are all these used for testing, right? Integration of test cases. Have you used any build plugins like assembly plugin, the Maven versioning plugin? Have you come across those?
Yes, I have used the assembly plugin, also the transitive dependency plugins inside that.
Okay.
And apart from that, I also use the plugins for the transitive dependency for the build plugin, and also use some reporter plugin. And I was responsible for handling the lifecycle of the project, where we can have the artifact ID in the shared repository, and also use the enforcer plugin with the archetype. And I have also used I have also used the refill change log login, and which is user using the by using the release plugin inside the Maven, and also try to use the enforce plugin, and use the Javadoc plugin for generation of Javadoc of the specific project, to analyze the application code and defining there. So these are like some of the build plugins I have used under Maven.
Okay. For coming back to Gradle, right? What is the Gradle wrapper?
It's possible to use, which is used for build and production, used mostly for the Android projects, and also use it for build automation for multi-language deployment. And it is very easy to write the build and deployment code inside that, including the Java.
What is the Gradle wrapper? No, hold on. What is a Gradle wrapper? My question is very simple. What is a Gradle wrapper?
Oh, it's actually some the Gradle wrapper, something which will allow us to define the declare version of Gradle, it inbox specific version of Gradle, and downloading it beforehand without the manual installation. So this will help us to make sure that the Gradle, without requiring the install on the specific system, which is like portable version. And inside that we can actually change the build and then we can make that they're added to the profile, and then from there added to the Gradle profile, and then from there it is actually get the folders to the version control system, which helps us to get the Gradle properties file inside that.
Okay. So have you anytime done Maven to Gradle conversion?
When we are doing it for one of our legacy projects, we did it manually by not having an automated tools, and while we are doing it by individually looking at the dependencies inside the form.xml file, and then mapping those build apps like deploy and others, having the build dependencies, and inside that we also define the source and target, like I would like to say, like target compatibility with the integration. Apart from that, we have used the configurations inside the custom plugins with the artifact ID, and with the various versions which will be used inside the Angular version. So we could get all of there, and which should be taken in the artifact ID with the dependency mapping, which would be handled in the source environment and work on top of that. So this is during the legacy project, we have used that conversion.
Okay. Okay. So let's move on to Ansible. So what is the difference between an ad hoc command and a playbook command in Ansible?
The main difference is that playbook will be running as a series of steps, and then coming to the editor command, we can use the GST we used for doing like individual live rebooting a server or restarting some specific web servers, which will use the command line tools to automate a single task on management, and also use and it is also very easy and quick to use without defining multiple policies and roles inside the playbook.
Okay. So what if I want to run a playbook, right, without actually executing it on the host machine? So how do I do that?
We can do the dry run inside that. So basically, there is a dry run mode inside the Ansible, which allows us to do the specific debug, and also I can pass the flag of the dry run inside that. We can actually define the command like
Can you tell me the command?
Yeah,
Ansible. Can you tell me the command, please?
Ansible hyphen playbook my.yaml. I mean, like we can give some file name and we can do like hyphen check. This is the command which we will give usually.
Okay. How about displaying the logs, right? Like for tracing the execution. How do you get that achieved in Ansible?
If you want to display the Ansible inside that, we can actually done it log in the debug mode. So basically, we can have the logging of the input and output command, and command inside that we can just simply do like debug mode for the Ansible, which can be run on top of that, which will be one of the things which should be getting the debug logs on the application. And the command is like Ansible -playbook -v and .yaml. Like we can give the file in there, and using the -v command, we can do the debug and verbose analysis of the logs for the Ansible.
Okay. What have you done on in AWS?
Oh, I mean, and specifically, I was actually working on almost 15 of the Amazon services, I mean, like tools and technologies, including but not limited to the web services, Elastic Cloud Compute, as well as virtual private cloud, and also worked on the deployment and automation of the integration environment, and also responsible for using the load balancer as well. Also the auto-scaling group, and try to define the virtual private cloud, and also wrote the Route 53 for DNS, and simple email service and simple notification service. So this is like a brief explanation.
Okay. Have you worked on Kubernetes?
Yeah, I worked on Kubernetes environment and eventually responsible for various kinds of manifest files in the application code, and then define it on the target machine in OLX. Apart from that, and also, but not some of the deployment services and orchestration environment. And I was also responsible for how we could do the release integrations in the third-party service deployment, and worked on some of the deployment automation and orchestration in this case, and responsible for how to get the Docker file, which would be created in this case, and utilize it on the service properly without having a downtime, and also having some rolling updates, and use of the config map and horizontal spot auto cluster inside Kubernetes, which would be able to duplicate the application and make sure that we are scaling up using the demand.
Okay. Okay. What are the tools that you are familiar with in DevOps?
AWS, Jenkins, Kubernetes, and also Puppet. And these are like Python and Shell. Those are like basic scripting.
Okay.
Yeah. And Git.
What do you mean by an inventory? Why do you need an inventory file in Ansible?
Ansible inventory file will keep a track of all the servers in the specific infrastructure circle, and it helps us to make sure that all the servers are mapped properly in the centralized environment, and which we do not have to worry about individual machines in the middle of the keep authentication information of all the servers in this case. And also we'll be having the central services and applied there, and then so can also make sure that the services are rendered in the proper way without the application code. And then this can be actually mapped to the real-time IP addresses and the S3 bucket information.
Okay. 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 I think I'm good, Kirti.
Yeah. Thank you, Vandana. And do you have anything to ask us?
Yeah, sure, definitely. So what are the day-to-day responsibilities in the team size? I would like to know this.
Yeah, this is more of a release engineering, role involving regular, deployment activities, monitoring, and maybe, debugging, right?
Okay.
And maybe also changing some already existing scripts, or maybe adding some new automation scripts,
Okay.
like that, yeah.
Okay, what are the
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me, anything else?
Can I know the next steps? I mean,
Yeah, next, we have to give the, feedback, and the team who will be hiring, right? They
Okay.
will have to take up, yeah.
Okay. Okay, then I'm good.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Vandana. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Philip.